right, let's dive right in, shall we? Today's deep dive is all about something I know a lot of you are buzzing about: coffee and its impact on blood pressure. We're dissecting this article, Will Quitting Coffee Lower Blood Pressure? From Coffee at Corner. And oh boy, it's got some twists and turns.
Yeah, you could say that. The research is all over the map.
Right, like 1 minute coffee's the bad guy, sending your blood pressure soaring.
And the next, it's practically a health hero, linked to a lower risk of heart disease.
It's enough to make you ditch your morning cup. Or maybe brew an extra pot. Seriously, how do we make sense of all this conflicting info?
Well, that's what we're here for, right? To break it all down. First things first, remember that research isn't always a straight line. Different studies, different methods, different results.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, not all coffee is created equal,
Yeah.
right? And people are different, too.
Exactly. You got it. How our bodies process caffeine, our genetics, our overall health, it all plays a role.
Speaking of genetics, I vaguely remember something about a gene that makes some people super fast caffeine metabolizers. Like, they can drink espresso all day and sleep like a baby.
You're thinking of the CYP1A2 gene. And yeah, those lucky folks do exist. It's like they have a built-in caffeine superpower.
So cool. Okay, but back to blood pressure. Is caffeine the main culprit here? Or are there other factors at play?
Caffeine is definitely a key player. Being a stimulant and all, it can temporarily raise your blood pressure.
Makes sense. A little jolt of energy, a little spike in blood pressure.
Right. But here's where it gets interesting. This article suggests that other compounds in coffee, like those wonderful antioxidants, might also be influencing things.
So maybe caffeine isn't working solo. There's a whole team of compounds in that coffee cup, each with its own effect.
Precisely. Think of it like a complex recipe, where each ingredient contributes to the final flavor.
A coffee symphony. Now hold on, because the article also threw in a curveball about good cholesterol. Something about coffee potentially boosting HDL cholesterol, which is heart healthy, right?
That's right. HDL is the good guy. Helps clear out the bad cholesterol, lowers your risk of heart problems.
Okay, so remind me, what exactly is cholesterol and why should we care about it?
Think of it like a fatty substance traveling through your bloodstream. We need some for healthy cells, but too much of the wrong kind, the LDL or bad cholesterol, can build up in your arteries.
Ah, right, like a clogged pipe. Not good. And coffee might be shifting the balance towards the good stuff.
That's what some studies suggest. One study found that folks who drank 4 or more cups a day were 22% less likely to have high LDL cholesterol.
22%, that's a significant difference.
It is. And another study found that even just 2 cups a day led to an 11% decrease in LDL over time.
Okay, so even moderate coffee drinking could be a win for cholesterol management. Fascinating. But back to caffeine and those blood pressure spikes, how exactly does that work?
Well, when caffeine enters your system, it causes your blood vessels to constrict. It's called vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction. Basically, your blood vessels tighten up a bit, and that can lead to a temporary increase in blood pressure.
Uh-huh. So that's why some people feel that immediate jolt after a coffee.
Exactly. But here's the thing, everyone reacts differently. Some people are more sensitive to this vasoconstriction than others.
Right, that makes sense. It's like some people can handle spicy food, others can't even look at a chili pepper.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And this difference in sensitivity could explain why some people can drink coffee all day and feel fine, while others get jittery after just 1 cup.
So what's the takeaway here? Should we all be ditching our coffee for the sake of our blood pressure?
Well, the article's conclusion is that there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Figures. It's never that easy, is it?
Nope. And that's why it's always best to talk to your doctor, especially if you have concerns about your blood pressure. They can give you personalized advice.
Great point. Because everyone's different and there are so many factors to consider. It's not just about the coffee itself.
Right. Lifestyle choices, diet, exercise, stress management, they all play a role in overall health, including blood pressure.
So coffee's just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. And for most people, the potential benefits probably outweigh the risks. But ultimately, it's a personal choice based on your individual needs and preferences.
Okay, so we've learned that coffee's relationship with blood pressure is surprisingly complicated. There's no easy answer.
And that's what makes it so intriguing. We're still unraveling the mysteries of this beloved beverage.
You know what? This whole discussion has me thinking. If coffee can influence cholesterol levels, could different types of coffee have different effects on blood pressure too?
Ooh, now that's a fascinating question. We're talking light roast versus dark roast, brewing methods, even adding milk or sugar. could those factors change the game?
Right. It's like we started with one question, will quitting coffee lower blood pressure? And now we have a whole bunch more.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it? It sparks curiosity and opens up new avenues of exploration.
I love it. So, to our listeners, what are your thoughts? What resonates with you from all this? What further questions are brewing in your mind?
Remember, knowledge is power, and even something as familiar as a cup of coffee can hold scientific secrets waiting to be uncovered.
Well said. Now, all this talk about coffee has me craving a cup. Maybe grab yourself one, regular or decaf, your choice, and join us for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll explore even more fascinating aspects of coffee and its effects on the body.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the fascinating world of coffee.
You know, it's funny how something as simple as a cup of coffee can spark such a complex scientific debate.
Isn't it? We often just grab our coffee and go without really thinking about all the amazing things happening inside our bodies.
Right, and as we discussed in part 1, the research on coffee's effect on blood pressure is, well, let's just say it's a bit of a mixed bag.
It definitely is. We've got studies showing increases in blood pressure, decreases in blood pressure, and even some suggesting no change at all.
It's enough to make your head spin. So how do we make sense of all this conflicting information?
Well, I think the key is to remember that research is an ongoing process. We're constantly learning new things, and sometimes the answers aren't always clear-cut.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in looking for a simple yes or no answer, but in reality, things are often much more nuanced than that.
Exactly. And when it comes to coffee and blood pressure, there are a lot of individual factors to consider as well.
You know, that actually reminds me of something that really stood out to me in the article, the idea that people respond to coffee differently.
Ah, yes. The concept of individual variability. It's something we see time and time again in research.
Right. I mean, I know people who can chug an espresso before bed and sleep like a log, and then there's me, I have one cup in the afternoon and I'm up all night.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's because the way our bodies metabolize caffeine can vary significantly from person to person.
So, what are some of the factors that influence how we process caffeine?
Well, genetics plays a role. Some people have genes that make them faster caffeine metabolizers, while others metabolize it more slowly.
That makes sense. So, it's not just about how much coffee you drink, but also how your body handles it.
Precisely. And then you have other factors like age, body weight, liver function, even medication use can all influence caffeine metabolism.
Wow. So, it's really a personalized thing. It's not one size fits all at all.
Exactly. And this is why it's so important to pay attention to your own body's signals. If you notice that coffee is making you feel jittery or anxious or interfering with your sleep, it's probably a sign that you need to cut back or switch to decaf.
Such good advice. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you can enjoy the taste and potential benefits of coffee without experiencing any negative side effects.
Well said. And speaking of potential benefits, I want to shift gears for a moment and talk about something we briefly touched on earlier, coffee's potential impact on cholesterol.
Ooh, yes. We were talking about those studies suggesting that coffee might actually improve cholesterol levels. Is there more to that story?
There is. And it's an area where research is still ongoing. But some studies indicate that coffee, particularly filtered coffee, might have a positive impact on both HDL, the good cholesterol, and LDL, the bad cholesterol.
So it's not just about raising the good cholesterol, but also potentially lowering the bad. That's amazing.
It is pretty remarkable. However, it's important to emphasize that this is a complex area and more research is needed to fully understand the mechanisms involved.
Right. We don't want to jump to any conclusions just yet, but it's definitely an exciting area of research.
It is. And it highlights the fact that coffee is much more than just a simple beverage. It's a complex mixture of compounds that can have a variety of effects on our bodies.
You know what? This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to the science behind coffee. It's fascinating how much there is to learn about something we often take for granted.
I agree. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about science. There's always more to discover, always new questions to ask.
Well said. And speaking of questions, I have one brewing in my mind right now.
I'm all ears.
We've been focusing on coffee's potential effects on blood pressure and cholesterol, but what about other aspects of health? Does coffee have any impact on things like cognitive function, mood, or even longevity?
Ah, you're thinking about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I like it. And the answer is yes. Research suggests that coffee may have some pretty interesting effects on those areas as well.
Really? So there's even more to this coffee conversation than we initially thought.
Absolutely. And in part 3 of our deep dive, we'll venture into those uncharted territories exploring the potential links between coffee and brain health, mental well-being, and even the fascinating concept of coffee as a longevity booster.
Wow, I can't wait. It seems like with every sip of coffee, we uncover a new layer of scientific intrigue.
That's the beauty of exploration, isn't it? There's always something new to learn, always another mystery to unravel.
And we're back for the final installment of our coffee deep dive. It's amazing how much we've uncovered about this everyday drink, right?
I know, right? It's like coffee has a whole secret life we're just starting to understand.
Absolutely. And in this last part, we're getting into the really good stuff. How coffee affects our brains, our mood, maybe even how long we live.
The big questions, right? And luckily, there's some exciting research to explore.
Okay, so first up, coffee and our brains. Spill the beans. What's the connection?
Well, you know that feeling of mental clarity you get after your morning coffee?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's like my brain finally wakes up.
Exactly. And there's a good reason for that. Caffeine blocks a neurotransmitter called adenosine, which makes you feel sleepy.
Ah, so it's like coffee hits the snooze button on our sleepiness.
Pretty much.
Ugh.
And by doing that, caffeine actually boosts the activity of other neurotransmitters, dopamine, norepinephrine. These are involved in attention, motivation, even mood.
So it's like a brain power-up. No wonder I feel so much more focused after a cup.
And get this, some studies even suggest that regularly drinking coffee could have long-term benefits for cognitive health.
Wait, seriously, like protect our brains as we age?
Potentially. There's research linking coffee consumption to a lower risk of cognitive decline, even conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Wow, that's incredible. So my daily coffee habit might actually be doing my brain a favor.
It's possible. Those antioxidants we talked about earlier might play a protective role here too.
Those antioxidants are like little superheroes fighting off all the bad stuff.
Exactly, protecting ourselves from damage. And coffee's a great source of them.
Okay, so we've got alertness, we've got potential brain protection. Now let's talk mood. Does coffee actually make us happier?
Well, remember how caffeine affects dopamine and norepinephrine? Those are key players in mood regulation.
Right, right. So maybe that's why I get that little mood lift after my morning latte.
Could be. And some studies have actually linked coffee consumption to a lower risk of depression.
Wow, so coffee could be a mood booster.
It's a possibility. But remember, more research is needed to confirm that link.
Always more research. It's like a never-ending quest for knowledge.
That's science for you. And it's important to note that everyone reacts differently to caffeine. What makes one person happy might make another anxious.
Oh yeah, that's so true. It's all about finding what works for you, right?
Absolutely. Listen to your body, adjust your coffee intake if needed.
Okay, now for the grand finale, the potential link between coffee and longevity. Is this real? Can coffee actually help us live longer?
Now, that's a fascinating question. And there have been some large-scale studies observing that coffee drinkers tend to live longer than non-coffee drinkers.
Wait, so all those years of enjoying my daily coffee might be adding years to my life.
It's an intriguing possibility. Of course, it's important to note that these are observational studies.
Right, so we can't definitively say coffee causes longer life.
Exactly. But the findings are definitely interesting and worth further exploration.
So what could be the secret behind coffee's potential longevity powers? Those amazing antioxidants again.
That's one theory. Researchers believe those antioxidants, along with anti-inflammatory compounds and other bioactive substances in coffee, might work together to protect us against chronic diseases.
So it's like coffee is giving our bodies this extra layer of defense against aging.
That's the idea. And while there's still much to learn, the research is definitely pointing in a positive direction.
Wow, I have to say, this deep dive has totally changed my perspective on coffee.
Me too. It's so much more than just a simple pick-me-up. It's a complex, fascinating drink with a lot to offer.
Absolutely. It's like we've uncovered this whole new world of coffee knowledge.
And that's what makes this deep dive so rewarding, right? Expanding our understanding of something we encounter every day.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So to all our listeners out there, savor that next cup of coffee with a newfound appreciation for the science behind it.
Cheers to that. And remember, the exploration doesn't stop here. Keep asking questions. Stay curious.
Exactly. There's always more to discover. And with that, we'll say bye for now. Until next time, happy coffee drinking.